Hello, everybody. My name is Pastor Clifton Battle, and this is Second Chance Ministries. And today's message, I hope, going to be inspiring and uplifting. All right, everybody. In order to get my sermon started, I'd like to read a verse to you to get the groundwork laid out. And like I said, my sermons is about a sinner. And so I'm going to read from the book of Mark, chapter 12, verses 38 through 40. And it reads like this right here. As he taught, Jesus said, "Watch out for the teachers of the law. They like to walk around in flowing robes and be greeted in the marketplaces and have the most important seats in the synagogues and the places of honor of banquets. They devour widows' houses for a show, make lengthy prayers. Such men would be punished most severely." This is what started the whole thing. Jesus had just condemned the Pharisees. And the Pharisees didn't like that because they had all this glory that they have been given from the people way before Jesus came. So they liked that honor that they had, and they didn't want to lose it. And when Jesus went preaching throughout the whole countryside, he was slowly taking all that honor away from them. So what they decided to do was, they decided after they heard this, that they wanted to kill him. And ain't that something? That they supposed to be men of God, and this is a man of God, and now you are plotting to kill him. So this is what they done. They said, well, we can't just go and kill him because then that's going to cause an uprising from the people. So they decided, they said, well, what we would do is we will listen to him and we will let his words condemn him. So they figured that they'll follow him around, and at the first convenient time and place, they'll use his words to condemn him. So this is what started the whole thing. So Jesus left there and he went to another city. He went to a city to where another Pharisee that was living there named Simon. Now the thing about Simon was a leopard. Simon the leopard. Now you would think that by Simon being a leopard, somehow or another he got cured along the way. So if he got cured along the way, you would think that he would hold all of his glory to God, because at that time there was no way in the world known that you could get rid of leprosy. But here you see that he was a leopard. And we read that in Mark chapter 14. And this is going to start it. In verse 3 it said, "While he was in Bethany, reclining at the table in the home of a man known as Simon the leopard, a woman came with an alabaster jar of very expensive perfume made of pure nard. She broke the jar and poured the perfume on his head." Now, Simon was a leper. So when Jesus got there, he invited Jesus into his home. So now when you go into a person's home, you're supposed to show them honor and respect. This is what they did back at that time. But now, this is not what their intentions was. Their intention was to embarrass Jesus. They wanted to bring shame to him and find something wrong in his teaching. So while this was going on, there was other things that were going on. Anytime Jesus went anywhere, he had just crowds and crowds of people that followed him wherever he went. Now, he had his 12 disciples that followed him wherever he went, but he also had the crowds, and these crowds followed him for different reasons. Some of them followed him because they heard about the food. Some of them followed him because they heard about the blessing that he was bestowing on people. And some of them had illness that they wanted Jesus to cure. So it was abundance of reason why they followed him. And some of them followed him just because they knew that he was the Son of God, and they wanted to show their love for him. And that brings us to this sinner. Now, in the book of Luke, chapter 7, Luke explains better what happened. And I'm going to read that to you. Luke chapter 7 and verses 36 through 38. I'm going to read that first. And it reads, "Now one of the Pharisees invited Jesus to have dinner with him. So he went to the Pharisee's house and reclined at the table. When a woman who had lived a sinful life in that town learned that Jesus was eating at the Pharisee's house, she brought an alabaster jar of perfume, and she stood behind him at his feet weeping. She began to wet his feet with her tears. Then she wiped them with her hair, kissed them, and poured perfume on them." Now, I just read what she done. Now, this right here have been preached for generation, but it haven't been told what really happened here. This sinful woman, when she came there, you got to ask yourself, what would make her do that? I mean, she had no reason to do it. Matter of fact, it was unlawful for her to do it. She was in another man's home. And, you know, for a woman back then, a woman had no say-so about nothing. And she definitely couldn't go into another man's home and take over like she owned it. So this is what happened. She had this perfume, and then she knew it was expensive. So I think what she was going to do was she was going to give this perfume to Jesus, because just like any ministry, it need money to finance whatever they got to do. So she was going to give him that. But when she came in and she seen what was going on, her being a woman had a better view and had a better sense of love than the people that was there already. Now you would think that Jesus' disciples would never let him be disrespected the way he was being disrespected when he went into the Simon the leper home. When he got up in them, he had to just find a seat for himself. Just find a seat, and here it is, the Pharisees, they sitting up on a high place, and they looking down on him, talking amongst one another the way that they do. And Jesus just sitting there, wondering, you know, what is this all about? And here it is, his disciples, his closest companions, his closest compadres. They just sat back and looked. They didn't do nothing. So this sinful woman came in, and she looked at all of this, and it broke her heart. It broke her heart to tears, because there was nothing that she could do to change that situation as far as this man home. Now back then, the thing was, whenever you got invited into another man's home, the first thing he did was got you a bowl of water so you can wash your feet and wash your hands. But this didn't happen to Jesus. They didn't give him nothing. He just sat him down and just waiting for him to condemn himself. So nothing had happened so far. So when this woman came in and seen this, and she looked around at his disciples and wondering, why are you letting this happen? This is your Lord, and you letting this happen to him. So the only thing she could do was what she could do. She took and cried. Now you got to remember, now she cried tears enough to wash his feet. That's a lot of crying. That's a lot of hurt and a lot of love. She's sitting there and she's crying her heart out. Tears just flowing. They are flowing. And she's looking up at Jesus' face. And she just want to tell him just how sorry she is for how he's being treated. So she's crying and she's washing his feet with her hair. Now, I want to tell you something about a woman's hair. Back then, a woman's hair was her glory. It was her glory. It was so much of a glory that they couldn't even walk out in public without it being covered up. And that still goes on today. It have to be covered up. Now you got to remember, this woman took her hair and washed his feet. She was saying, it don't matter about my hair. It's all about you and the love I have for you. Now you just think for yourself. Now here today, we got our sisters. I mean, I love them to death. They take care of themselves, and you know, they have their hair done, and they feel good about themselves. But I ask you, sisters, how many of you would take your hair and get out and wash another man's feet? Because this is what she done. But I'm really not giving you the whole picture of what's really happening here. Let me take you back a little bit so I can really show you what this woman was going through and how she felt. Now, like I told you, Jesus was preaching in the countryside, all over Judea. Now, you got to remember that there are roads there. I know on the East Coast, the rural roads is called ramps. But out here in Texas, they are called FM, farm to market. And this is basically what really was going on back then. Every road in Judea was made to get the farmer, crop, and livestock to the market so he can sell it. So now you gotta picture this. So all these animals is using these roads the same way as people is. Now you gotta know that these animals is using the bathroom while they walk. Now there's no way in the world that you are gonna walk on any of these roads and not come in contact with it. So you gotta look at what she was looking at. Here it is, Jesus, down here, his feet dirty, stanky, and this woman didn't care. And she's still crying, and she's washing his feet with her hair, all of her glory, looking up in Jesus' eyes, telling him just how sorry she was for these people to disrespect him the way that they did. And I wonder, you know, if it would have been us now, what would we do? Would we have let Jesus be disrespected the way his closest companion did? His disciples? Let's take it a step further. You're a member of a church. If you're a member of the church, most of you love your pastors because you talk about them all the time. You talk about your church. You give that pastor and you give that church honor. How would you feel if a visitor came to your church and disrespected your pastor? What would you do? Would you say something to him, or would you just sit back and let it happen? Well, most the deacons, they ain't gonna let that happen. You know, the deacon, they're gonna stand up and they're gonna protect that pastor and the congregation. That's what the deacon job is. But see, they wasn't called deacons back then. But those 12 disciples, they was the same thing as deacons. And they let that happen. And for me, I cannot understand why they let that happen. But this woman, she is deeply crying. She is washing his feet. She was going to give that perfume and changed her mind and say, you know, I'm not going to give you nothing. I'm going to take this perfume and I'm going to put it on my Lord because he's worthy of that. None of the rest of you is. Because I know if I give it to you, you only going to go and sell it. I don't want it, so I want him to have it. And the only way he going to have it is for me to put it on his feet. But now the scriptures goes on to say that while she was washing his feet with her hair, she was kissing it. Not just kissed it. She was kissing it over and over again, just kissing it. And she was showing that it don't matter about the discomfort. It doesn't matter about the smell. She don't care about that. Because see, what she could have had done was took that perfume and put it on his feet. Why? Before she started kissing him. She didn't do that. She only applied the perfume on his feet after she had finished washing it and kissing it. And she did that passionately. And the only thing Jesus could do was look down at this woman and see the love that no one had showed him while he had been ministering throughout all Judea. He had never seen that before. He had only gave good word about one person, and that was John the Baptist. Nobody else had come close to doing anything for him. He did that for John the Baptist because he was the forerunner for him. John did a lot for him. John died for him. And Jesus says, no greater love than to lay down your life for your brother. Well, this woman didn't have to lay her life down, but she did in a sense, because she disrespected all of those men there. And by her disrespecting those men and Simon the leper sitting high up on his pedestal with his other Pharisee friends, they could have had stoned her to death for what she did. They was already looking for a reason to kill Jesus. Now they found a reason to kill her. But like I said, with everything, they have to wait. They don't want to bring the crowd in on them. So Jesus, he sat there and he analyzed the whole situation. He said, this woman got love greater than any love I have seen. And so at that time, now, something new came up. Judas came up. Judas came up and he said, why is you wasting this perfume on Jesus? Now, ain't that something to ask somebody? Here it is. This is your Lord. This is your Redeemer. This is the Son of God. And this woman did this act for your Lord and hers. And you're gonna ask her, why would you let her do that? We could sell this and get a year's wage for it. And I tell you, I read the Bible a few times, and not no time in the Bible have I ever seen Jesus discipline his disciples in public. Never did he do it, but he did then. This is the only time that he disciplined his disciples. And he told them, you leave her alone. She's doing a good thing. Because, see, they didn't understand what was going on, nor did she. All of this right here was for Jesus' burial. She was getting him prepared for that. But, see, Judas was about that money because, see, he was a thief. And he was robbing them. But nobody was paying him any mind. Judas was the one in charge of the money. And if you're in charge of the money, if nobody else don't know how much it is, you can spend what you want to. So he wanted that money. He didn't care about Jesus and what Jesus was preparing for. He didn't care nothing about that. But the situation changes. And Jesus, he tell them, well, first, like I said, this was the first time that anybody that Jesus had ever rebuked one of his disciples. And like I said, and that was Judas. And Judas had that coming. But also, you had the Pharisees jumping up. And they talking now. And they be up there talking about, if you know what kind of woman this was touching you, you would let them touch it. But see, they didn't ever pay Jesus no mind when he came and he told them about why he came. And they asked him, why are you sitting and eating and drinking with the sinners? And he told them then, he said, I come for the sinners. He said, because y'all don't need no physician. Ain't nothing wrong with y'all. Brothers and sisters, we're going to pause right here for a little while, give you a chance to catch your breath, give you a chance to think about what's done happened so far, and we're going to come back and we're going to finish up this sermon, and we're going to find out the goodness of God.
This is William, hopefully your favorite videographer from Two Hats Publishing. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like it, please leave comments below, or like, follow, or subscribe to us and get notices of all our videos. We love it, even when you call.